Call to order at 6:42 p.m. The ground rules for this meeting, as it was being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth as a result of the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. Roll call. Let's see.
Heather Alcock here.
Yep. Go ahead, Nick.
Nick Ziantra here.
Okay, Mike.
Mike Amandalier here.
Mike Morali here.
Jean Davern here. Nobody else? No, Jack. No, Norm.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so the first issue on the agenda is actually the budget hearing. For those who are not members of the FinCom that are here to hear the budget hearing, at our last meeting 1 week ago, we went through the budget and voted to approve the budget, as I'm going to try to share on the screen right now. All right, here is the budget. Is it big enough? Can everybody see it?
Yes.
Okay. What I'm going to do is just go through the departments, starting with 114, which is the moderator, and then read down. You can see the column, which says FY 2021. This is the second FY 2021. There was a requested and then a received.
Yeah.
What we've
Recommended.
actually approved is the column all the way to the right, for REC FY 2021. So I'm going to read through those numbers. I ask anybody to, if they have a question about a particular budget, to just let us know to hold that, just like we would at the annual town meeting. Let me go through the entire budget, and then we can answer any questions at the end once I get through the hearing. So I'm going to begin with Department 114, moderator, $100. Department 122, selectmen, $54,700. Department 131, finance committee, $83,000. Department 135, accounting and payroll, $58,845. Department 141, Board of Assessors, $90,271. 145, Town Treasurer Collector, $139,013. 151, Legal Counsel, $80,000. 161, Town Clerk, $51,629. 162, Elections and Registration, $22,677. 171, Conservation, $29,567. 175, Planning Board, $23,197. 176, Zoning Board, $3,900. 179, Land Use Committee, $2,550. 195, Town Reports, $22,250. Nothing budgeted for unpaid prior year bills at this point. 199, Town Hall Services, $582,379. Moving on to Public Safety Department, 210, Police Department, $1,688,341. Department 220, Fire Department, $968,611. Department 241, Building Inspector, $56,442. Department 242, Gas Inspector, $7,300. Department 243, Plumbing Inspector, $5,750. Department 244, sealer of weights and measures, $1,500. Department 245, electrical inspector, $14,525. Department 291, emergency management, $4,650. Department 292, dog officer, $10,265. Department 294, tree warden, $49,100. Department 299, public safety dispatch, $216,656. Schools, Department 301, Minden Upton Regional School District, $10,329,065. Department 310, Blackstone Valley Vocational School, $1,100,376. Department 421, Public Works, $65,498. Department 422, Highway Construction and Maintenance, $585,673. Department 423, Snow and Ice Removal, $194,000. Department 424, Streetlights, $19,500. Department 450, Water, $23,134. Soldiers and Sailors Graves, $100. Department 510, Board of Health, $508,975. Department 541, Council on Aging, $127,427. Department 543, Veterans Benefits, $38,800. Department 610, Culture and Recreation, $280,083. Department 630, Parks and Recreation Department, $97,447. Historical Commission, $4,000. 692, Special Events, $400. Now, just to round this out, debt service, retirement of debt principal, $545,000. Interest on long-term debt, $181,276. Then we move on to employee benefits. Worcester County Retirement, $717,711. Department 912, Workers' Compensation, $24,500. Department 913, Unemployment Insurance, $500. Department 914, Health Insurance and Other Employee Benefits, $990,275. Department 915, Long-Term and Short-Term Disability Insurance, $25,000. Department 916, Medicare, $61,000. Department 919, Police and Fire Insurance, $28,500. And Department 945, Property and Casualty Insurance, $92,700. Then we have special article, $6,500 for the cyclical inspection program, $17,000 for the update valuation program, and then $2,500 for matching grants for $26,000 for special articles. Assessors overlay, $120,000. Local aid assessments, $15,130 for a total of $135,130. And as you can see, the grand total of expenses comes down to $20,449,288. And that is the budget as was approved by the selectmen and recommended by the Mendon Finance Committee. Does anybody have any questions? All right, then I'm going to declare the public hearing closed. Jean, do you have 6:49?
I do.
Okay. And now we can move on to the articles for the annual town meeting. Kim, can you tell us where we're at? I know you and I spoke earlier about the selectmen and their meeting on Monday and possibly moving the town meeting, but can you talk about that?
Sure. The date for the town meeting is still pending. I would say in all likelihood that we are going to postpone the meeting, but there still is a chance, obviously, because they can determine that on Monday that we may be having it on the 1st. At this point, sorry, it's really hard to gauge. Hold on.
That's why I have a door on my office and my dog is sleeping in my bed.
She's the worst. But anyway, so we probably, I've recommended that we move it to the 29th, but that doesn't mean that we have to. I think the thought process right now is that we probably could hold it on the 1st. We certainly have the spacing to do it. But my argument would be that I'm not sure who would be attending in 19 days to go to the town meeting, and we want participation. So I would say stay tuned to that. That being said, the FinCom has time, whether it's the 1st or the 29th, to recommend funding sources for the articles that have been submitted.
Okay. The document that I received, let me see if I can share it up here. Okay, did I just lose everybody?
No, we're
Okay.
here.
Okay. So I have the annual town meeting warrant up here that still has to have numbers filled in for the different articles. So I'm going to switch to not this one, that's the old one. Okay, can everybody see the spreadsheet?
Yes,
I know it's pretty small, right?
we have a printed copy.
Okay. All right, Kim, do you want to walk through this with everybody?
Sure.
Obviously, the Article 1 is obvious, is the same language about the, any articles taken out of order. It's more of a procedural thing. Article 3 is obviously the budget that we just discussed. I don't have a list of the elected salaries. Do you have those handy, Kim? Have they changed from last year?
Nothing has changed from last year besides the $100 for the moderator.
Okay. And before we go any further, maybe you already mentioned this. So when do we have to have this approved? We don't have to have this approved until, our recommendations have to be approved so that we can give them on the town meeting floor.
Right, exactly. Like you could review these 5 minutes before the town meeting and go for them. Or not. The trickiest part is the recommendation of the funding source typically. But since there aren't that many financial articles here really that are of debate, most of this is pretty easy. So for now, you could skip the school question and save that debate until after we zip through the other ones.
Right.
There's most of this, a lot of these, if you can see, like Article 5, Article 6, and Article 7, all the way through 10. These are all things that hopefully will be on a consent calendar. So it'll just be one vote because they're things we vote on every year.
Right.
And that's going to zip the meeting right along. And then that would bring us to the debt payments that we make every year through the portions of debt payments that CPC makes every year. The only difference this year, as you can see, Article 11, which doesn't have a dollar amount in it, is the actual authorization to use $30,000 more from CPC. And then 12 is, and that extra 30 is for their share of the 1.4 million every year, the extra 1.4. The Article 12 is all of it combined. So it's the original $5 million issue plus the new $30,000 share for the extra 1.4. That's 11 and 12. So 11 you'll only see one time. It's this year. Then next year you'll just see like 12 with all of the numbers in it.
With the CPA money built into whatever our debt payment is.
Right, and this is just the CPA portions because the rest of the debt is already approved. If we don't approve these shares from CPC, we are still obligated to pay the debt payments out of the rest of the operating budget. So these are the shares that could be shares of funds for each project that could be appropriated based on open space or historic nature or whatever at the time of the borrowing for each thing.
Okay.
And then 13 is the CPC portion for the Pheno debt, which we vote on every year. There will be some split between budgeted reserve or open space. I don't have it with me right now. Anne is on the line. She may have it, but I don't think it's not super necessary at this point. Essentially, they're spending from their own funds. Then the next FinCom article is, if you scroll all the way down, you don't have 14. 15 is revolving fund limits that we vote on every year. Then there's 2 planning board articles that are not FinCom related. So then we have a bunch of smaller CPC articles. The first one, I know Dan is on the line, but I'll take a crack at it first and then he can go forward. It's drainage improvements at the beach. That's $10,000 from budgeted reserve. Then, well, I put little notes there. You can see what they are. Record rooms, gutters. You may remember these from when they had visits. Then there's, and I couldn't remember the specifics. I think this is the leftover funding from Only Cook that's in each of those lines that then needs to be transferred into a different CPC fund. I didn't have the notes on that.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. I didn't have it, but essentially they're just transferring within their own funds to return funds that they didn't expend for those projects. That's 20 and 21. 22 should be $20,000. That's a typo. It's $10,000 for the Pollinator Meadow. And Anne can speak a little bit to that if she wants.
Yeah, can you just tell us about that, Anne?
I'm sure. It's on the open space that goes along Muddy Brook on Route 16. It's called Muddy Brook North Conservation Area. And it's sort of down from where the apple trees were at the top on Route 16. It's the lower field that's sort of in the middle of the woods that you can see from the road.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a real interest in having a pollinator garden, and so we chose this location. But it's a project that's going to take many years and a lot of volunteer effort. But the first thing we need to do is remove invasives. There's a lot of multiflora rose and autumn olives, and so that's sort of what this step is right here. And it'll also be like educational, and we'll have a path and a boardwalk to it, so the public would be able to visit it and learn about pollinator gardens. And it's near Clough School, so students could go to it also.
Now, this is, like you said, this is the lower field, so it's pretty much at the bottom of the hill.
Sort of, it's on the west side of Muddy Brook.
Uh-huh.
So it's not really at the bottom, it's sort of up from it, but it is a wetter area. And it's in the open space, the preserved open space area.
So that area is someplace that is there a conservation restriction on that? So that's never going to be sold, right? I mean, that
Correct.
will always be. And the
Correct.
reason I ask is I know at one point there was some kind of discussion about, sometimes with conservation restrictions, you can swap land to other areas, but the conversation about this becoming a pollinator meadow suggests that, it's always going to be that.
Yeah, I looked into the switching of the conservation restriction in that location. It can't happen. After talking with the state and Meadow Common Land Trust, there's just too many roadblocks. But it doesn't mean that you can't develop that upper portion of the field if the town wants to. It's just the 200 feet by the road would just be open. That's all.
Yeah,
But
and that's all I'm asking is to start putting time and effort in and spending money for something that what you're saying is it's always going to be there. It's not something that you're going to do for 5 or 10 years and then sell it, right?
Correct.
Okay. Well, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, there's a lot of interest in it.
Yeah. All right, thanks. Article 23, the affordable housing well, is this down near on the way to the senior center?
So I'll start first and then I'll let Bill chime in with it. Right, we have been looking for a water source for the senior housing project that's been in development that's next to the senior center for a while. Bill has looked at multiple different possibilities for locations and costs and has found a good solution to that. He's also has a grant that he's working within, so I'll let him speak for a minute on the exact details of what this would involve.
Okay, good evening. So if you remember at the last town meeting, we brought forward a proposal to develop a well site that would be on the upper reaches of 52 Providence. And although that would be a great solution for the town because there's a lot of potential up there for feeding other areas of town, it became a hot potato politically. And so we went searching around for other options. And the purpose of this grant is to just get DEP, the first step of DEP permitting. And the rationale is to increase RFP bidder confidence and reduce their risk, so we can get some more better competitive bid when that RFP is issued. And anyway, so I'm trying to close out this grant, and we have a bunch of sunk costs in the work that we had done trying to develop the upper reaches, and so this is more of a contingency in case we need a little extra funding to finish the grant work.
So this is actually more planning to locate and build a well. It's not actually putting the well in.
It's the first steps, and we can carry that work as far as we'd like to. By the way, we're planning on enough supply to be able to service the expanded senior center when that comes around too, to get a double win out of this. So it's basically to get the permitting that basically says to a developer, yes, this is a reliable source. It has the output capacity, et cetera. It's basically just a proven source. We can invest more money to actually put those wells in action, either for the senior center or for the housing, once this permitting is in place. I hope that answers your question.
It does.
And Mike, just to point out, this funding comes from the affordable housing portion of the funds, and we have almost $500,000 available within that. So we really would like, anytime we can find something that we can be starting to use those funding sources to advance these projects, we want to do that.
No, I don't disagree. It's just that and I realize that there's granting money, there's matching money in there and everything else, but it still ultimately came from a surcharge in everybody's taxes. So, but no, I agree with you. I mean, especially if it's planning money, it makes sure that we're not putting, there has to be good water there. I know that's close to the town aquifer or on it. And if they want to use that to help supplement or put a new connect a new well for the senior center, that's a double win, right?
Right. Definitely.
All right, thanks.
So
Anything else?
this
on
this
that?
is Nick. I just had a question. Would this water just be used for municipal buildings?
Hi, it's Bill again. This water would have sufficient flow to service the proposed housing development and the expanded senior center, but presumably nothing more.
Okay.
I don't think it would be. I don't think it would be all a public water supply. It would be, at this point, you're making sure that there's enough capacity to both help the senior center and for whatever affordable housing project that was put in there, right?
Correct.
Does that answer your question, Nick?
It does. Thank you.
Okay. Unless there's anybody else that has a question about that, let's, well, we're passing over the pumper truck for now, right, Kim?
Right. So you may recall that Chief Kessler had spoken about applying for a grant, and if potentially they were selected for that grant, that he would need some funding in this fiscal year in order to do the matching portion of it. He got information that that grant isn't going to be determined until potentially August, and so he has said we can pass over this article for now.
Okay. All right, then Article 25, the town hall well.
Right. So I can't recall if I spoke about this before at a FinCom meeting. I think I did.
I don't remember it, but.
Okay. So the town hall well is currently placed underneath the building. Okay. When the addition was built to the building, I don't know, someone will have to tell me, 1990. It basically where my office is, directly down
where the elevator is. And,
the
right.
elevator is, the well is underneath there in that area. Okay. Don't ask me how or why. That's how it was done. The problem is the pump for that well has been failing. It's failed a couple of times this year. And sometimes, you know, we have no water at all. And sometimes we have brown water. And so, I mean, but we've had it, and Dan is on the call. He's been working on this. We have been looking at it for about 4 or 5 months now, because as you know, we can't operate the entire campus. That well serves more than just the town hall. It serves the other buildings as well. We can't be open to the public without a water source. And so we have been looking at different solutions, including the possibility of having to install a brand new well in some other location, and going through the entire process in order to get that started. But we did receive multiple written quotes for some people would not even bid on this. There's reasons why it's built so far down below. Some said they would need cranes to come in. Some people said they would have to go in through the side of the building. One of the companies said that they thought that they could replace the pump with the slim pump, and they're going to try to do that. And that's what we are going to try. We have written estimates for the majority of the work, but then they have some contingency hours based in there, essentially if they have to do a work hourly beyond the initial costs. And so my estimate at this point is about $50,000 for the replacement of the pump. A replacement of the well, we got estimates anywhere between $35,000 and $100,000. And that, of course, could be even more because the best location might not actually be on a property that the town currently owns. So, and all of that would have to be explored. So our hope at this point is to fix what we have, which obviously isn't ideal, but we need to have, obviously with the new police station coming online, it's a priority to have water. We cannot afford to have the well fail at all. So we're
Right.
gonna go forward and hopefully buy some years with it.
So just a clarification, this well services the entire town hall kind of complex?
Campus, yes.
So that's the old library and the police station.
Yes.
And what's the 50,000 based on? Is it just a guesstimate or?
No, we have an estimate that we have a couple of written estimates. I know Dan is here too, and I could pull up a couple of them. But essentially, the main cost to do the majority of the components is around $30,000. But there's portions of it that are not included, including potentially buying some of the replacement parts outright that may be more beneficial for us to do on our own. So right now, this estimate is $50,000. There's also, and I have to say this, and there's a possibility it can't be fixed, but
That's not the first time I've heard that. I mean, I think
Right.
part of the reason it's there is, and Mike and Mandalia, do you remember anything about this? But I'm thinking that when they built the addition, they didn't move the well because they didn't think they could. Is that right? Do you remember anything about that? Nope, maybe he's not there. But that's not the first time I've heard that, which is
Right.
part of the reason why the building was built on top of it, right?
Right. Well, I'm just trying to pull up some
This is
docs.
in here. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yep.
Yeah.
My guess, and I don't know, is that at the time they did that addition, they probably couldn't move the well because the septic was on site.
Yes.
Now, all the rules have changed, everything, it's just a big mess.
Well, because now we use the septic system down behind the highway barn, right?
Right.
It's on the line.
Generally, DP wants 100-foot no disturb zone. I mean, it's just the regulations are through the roof now that didn't exist 20 years ago, but
Well, but now it's a public water supply, whereas there really wasn't a definition like that then, right?
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I know the current police station is coming down, right? So that's going to open that area all up, but
Right.
still something
realistically-
a lot easier to just fix what's there or get it to work.
The
And-
problem really is in finding the new location for a well. That
Right.
is, I mean, we have looked at different, like even with Bill's funding for the well for affordable housing, we looked at different options of trying to combine these potential projects, and we
Well,
just
you have to pump the water up. You can't do that, right? I mean,
Right, we looked at different properties. I mean, there's always the possibility of approaching a neighbor for an easement if we have to. I mean, but those are all situations that will cost a lot more, which we may have to do. And obviously we'd rather be not under duress when we're doing it. So
I'm just wondering, this might be a crazy, maybe this is cost prohibitive too, but I know a couple of years ago, we talked about something to do with the water up on the corner of 16, but that's not part of what we purchased. That still belongs to Fino, right? Where that well is right there on the corner.
I believe so. And we also looked at the possibility of having excess capacity at Clough or Misco, and there's nothing there.
There is no
Right.
extra capacity, right?
Right.
They're thinking about having to do their own new one anyways, right?
Right. So we're kind of in a tough spot. My preference obviously would be to build a brand new well that's going to last 200 years. But in the meantime, we have to be prepared to get from A to Z with what we have.
I don't mean to beat a dead horse right now, but it's definitely a problem with the pump and not with the capacity of the existing well?
Yes.
Okay, so it's $50,000 from CapEx. But you're anticipating that's enough money to solve the problem.
Hopefully, yes. I mean, there's really no way to know. That should be enough. Let's hope it's enough. Let's hope it's more than enough. But, part of the concern, without getting too much into this, is whether or not it can truly be fixed, and we've already tried some things. We've tried to pull the pipe up already, and it is so deep in the ground and so heavy that it can't be moved. We've tried a couple of different things already. So hopefully everything goes as planned, but if something goes wrong, which obviously we're not.
So is this still Dan, maybe you know this, if you don't, the pump is down inside the well, right?
Yeah, so the issue, and maybe this would help to clarify, normally like your well at your house is on plastic flexible pipe. Apparently at the time this well was installed, they used 20-foot sections of steel pipe. So you have all that weight, the pump is at the bottom, plus they'd have to pull it up in small chunks, and they're going to basically have to use a torch and cut it off in 5-foot pieces because it's in that little tiny room. It's just, it's an ugly job. I mean, Kim's right. Companies, they weren't interested in bidding on it. They laughed at us.
But yeah, somebody actually said they would pull that pipe up and cut it off in sections.
Well, normally they'd use a crane and just pull it straight out, but because the addition.
So would this be replaced with that flexible type piping like we use in home situations?
Yes. I think originally that's what he thought, and he just figured it would be an ugly job when the first contractor, and then the thing won't budge. I think they hooked a crane up to it and almost broke the crane. Like it's just really rusted in there or whatever. But it's just a very specialized field is what we're finding, and not a lot of people have the skill set to get to this level on it.
Well, this is beyond the purview of a FinCom meeting. It's interesting to talk about, but the point is it needs to be solved. And
one of the many glamorous things we do.
Right. Okay. At this point, does anybody have any questions at all about these articles or the process at this point?
So, Mike, this is Nick.
Yep.
Is our intent that we would vote on each of these one by one?
No. Well, what I'm going to request or suggest, or what I'm going to, I guess, direct is that I wanted everybody to be familiar with this, and I'm going to table the discussion for now. I'm going to schedule a meeting for next Wednesday at 6:30. And what I'd like to do, one way or the other, whether the town meeting gets postponed or not, I'm going to have the articles, the warrant articles, all formatted, as I would read them at the meeting, with all the funding sources and everything in place next Wednesday, with the right numbers on there, so that I'm going to go through them, and then if people have issues with recommending them, then we'll have to take them one by one. But otherwise, I would just have them all approved. But just to refresh everybody's memory, we still have this one that we really haven't discussed too much, which is Article 4, which is the school override, which is actually the override amounts $271,820, and that's really what I think will end up possibly spending a lot of time, or spending some time discussing. As a matter of fact, while we're talking right now, I'm just going to ask Kim if you want to just, is there any new information from when we discussed this last week?
About the school's budget?
Right, or the school override number? It's unchanged. It's still,
Well, there's a change, but it's not to our number. Upton has, what I heard is that Upton is paying their share, their $200,000 from their operating budget, so they're not doing an override. So
Okay.
it's just Mendon who is now doing an override.
okay. But we're still looking for 271,820.
Right.
And Upton would pay the 200 additional. I mean, that's not the entire amount that represents. That's just what they still owe because they
That
overpaid.
would have been the
last
override amount, right? And I'm not sure where they're paying it from, if it's stabilization or if it's from operating. I should clarify. Obviously, Jay did ask if Mendon, was considering something similar. The board hasn't discussed that at all at this point. We have a meeting on Monday. I'd say it's not likely.
Right. Well, our stabilization right now, according to the spreadsheet, if everybody can see it,
Right.
978,620.
I can only see the MM on my screen. Did you stop
Oh.
screen sharing?
I can,
No,
I can
I
see all of it.
Oh, weird.
Yeah.
I can hear myself.
We see you.
Somebody's got feedback going on. But anyways, we have, the point is our stabilization account is just under $1 million. And I don't know what our fund, I don't know what our target is, but I think we're still below target, right?
I can't see your screen, but if you go to the last tab in that spreadsheet, you'll see it exactly. Sorry, dog.
All right, so our target is 988,875. So we're 978,000. So we're about 10,000. We're $10,255 off of where our target of where stabilization should be, and that's so if we were to mimic Upton and pull basically better than 25% of it out just to meet the school's request, again, that would deplete our stabilization 25% of it. So I don't think that's an option, but again, it's
Mike,
Wait a minute.
Yes, Mike. Go ahead, Mike. I can't hear. Did I lose everybody?
No,
No, we
we're
got you.
here.
Okay. Gene, I can't hear Mike if he's talking.
All right, try it again.
Mike, that would leave us 700,000 in stabilization. But that's not the problem that concerns me if we did that. It's where do we come up with the money again next year?
Exactly. I was making the same point. That's just to satisfy the need this year. And it also almost makes it worse next year. But I guess, that's why we talked about doing the override before. So, okay, so I think that gives us an overview of the articles. So between now and next week, I'll have them all formatted in there. And in the meantime, the selectmen are going to have a meeting. They have one, I think they may have one tomorrow, but they definitely have one on Monday. So
Our meeting is Monday. We've moved it from tomorrow to Monday because
okay, so it was moved to Monday. Okay.
Right.
So the selectmen will discuss it, and then we'll know if we're going to have the meeting on June 1st or it's going to be moved, and then we'll be able to to vote on everything next week, to approve or not approve or recommend these articles. But it's pretty straightforward. Should be a very quick meeting because we really streamlined everything else, right?
So we're not talking about the school override tonight? I thought that was one of the things we were talking about.
Well, the issue is, we can discuss it more. Right? Nothing has really changed except that, the selectmen are going to talk on Monday about it, and then we have to discuss an approval. But I'm completely open, Heather, for you to comment anything that you want to discuss about it at this point.
Okay, I just, I mean, I know that the school system was able to find, relatively deep cuts. That was really more of a function of, right, electricity savings and, food, like they were using up the food from this that they had already purchased for all the meals. Like there's stuff that COVID presented that allowed them to save money. I'm just curious if they, have or are willing to go back and look further. I mean, I fully support the school systems and think they're doing a great job. However, I'm concerned about any override given the financial situation that many people in Mendon are in, given the unemployment rate, et cetera. And I think, if I'm recalling the meeting that we had, the multi-board meeting, I think there was talk of doing another override next year. It's not that I don't support the schools, but I don't know that I see the purpose of 2 overrides. I'm not suggesting that Mendon find more money. I'm suggesting that I don't know what I'm suggesting.
Well, I think we're all thinking in the same lines, that the bottom line is that it's not sustainable. I mean, just the idea that we have to have an override, just in this situation where the school, they haven't met for several months. They've cut the cost of transportation and food and utilities, and, they're talking about, other cuts just to slow down the increase. But I'm not sure we have control over a lot of the rest of that.
Yeah. I know they're a regional district and they can decide what they want, but
Heather, this is Nick. I share your concern around, an override at this time with what's going on in the world and what's going on locally with our residents around increasing taxes, especially in light of the fact that, of the indication that they may come back next year for an additional one. And I'm not sure, I think if we were to bring an override, I think townspeople may remember that we asked for an override and not the dollar amount if we come back again next year. And I'm just wondering if that's the best strategy around a long-range kind of funding issue that we have.
yeah, I mean, I think if I recall last year, given the situation, our increase to them was higher than it was this year. Although, again, our budget this year includes last year's increase, plus an additional 200 and something. I don't know, have the number in front of me. And that included cuts of multiple positions. Now, I don't want to see people lose their jobs. And I know that certainly Dr. Maruschak and the school committee is working with some leverage around, trying to negotiate with, the different unions. I mean, there's lots of things that I think many companies and school districts, nonprofits, et cetera, are trying to do. I have not seen, other than the cuts based on what happened with COVID, continuing to look at what other sorts of areas can be cut. Again, I realize, the reimbursement from the state is down. The increase per student is very little, but I just feel like it's.
Well,
I'm not comfortable with the $200-something thousand override, and then them asking for another $1 million next year or whatever it was supposed to be this year.
Well, the reality is that, it's either this override or stabilization or They cut positions, or the town side ends up cutting positions. That's the only other way we could possibly
Right.
fund it.
Yeah.
And we can't cut any positions. It's not.
No.
We can't cut police. We can't cut fire. The town hall already is understaffed. We need $8 million additional funding to fix the roads. So I think the reality is that if we go forward with the override and they're not going to cut anymore, I think the reality is to ask for $1 million override next year, it's not going to happen.
No.
And
I think, yeah. And then I think it's going to be
the ball really is in their court.
Right. The issue next year is it's going to be significantly more impactful when there's no override. Right? I mean, yeah. If they're going to ask for $1 million next year, I just see that as being, I don't know. I continue to see this kind of spiraling effect of the funding. And
Right.
It's not sustainable.
And I get that, that their answer to that usually is, well, until we, get our, the local share of the funding formula keeps going up, until we get to that sweet spot that, the state calls it, it's going to keep having the problem. But
I don't think that's an issue this year, though, is it?
What's that?
I don't think that that's an issue this year. I think we can meet the minimum local contribution, correct?
Correct.
Without an
override. But what I'm saying is that, it isn't valid or prudent for them to just keep saying to the town, well, this is what we want, so figure it out.
No.
I think they have to look at their budget hard themselves.
Yeah, but how does that message get communicated to them? We had a multi-board meeting and nobody came out and said that explicitly. I mean,
Right.
certainly we kind of hinted around the edges.
Well, we didn't
But,
have
I
to
mean-
say it that night because they were already telling us they were cutting, and we did tell them that, when they came to present their budget a few months ago, that this isn't sustainable, and we've been telling them that. I mean, it's a recurring theme. And I'm not sure it would matter what we tell them.
Yeah,
Because,
maybe not.
It's pretty clear they know.
Right.
I mean, Joe Maruschek already knows. Jay Beyer certainly knows.
I know.
Yeah, right. You and me both, brother.
Well,
Well, like I said, let's get through this year,
Exactly.
and then all we can do is hopefully try to do better next year.
Yeah, I
Well,
just don't know what strategically is the best move for the schools to get them the funding that they need, and
Well-
I just concerned that we may be coming off tone deaf of what the reality is
exactly.
around us.
Well, and again,
and-
what I'm gonna, reiterate to everybody is that our job is to evaluate this and make a recommendation. And, it's really not a recommendation to the school board, to the regional school district. It's a recommendation to the townspeople, from a financial standpoint, what do you recommend? And, I know that the night that the school came in front of us, Selectman Tinney and I were talking about it. And what it comes down to is, we don't need to tell the townspeople what to do. We just have to explain to them what the impact is, and they'll make the decision.
Right. Of course.
Right.
So all we can do as far as strategy goes is we just have to evaluate how it's going to impact the town's finances, and let people know what the what the option is, because I don't ever see us, even if let's say we decided that next year they asked for 1.1 million, And, we as a FinCom went to the meeting and said, this is just too much, and we're going to recommend that the town not approve it. That's pretty much the extent of what we can do.
Right.
Right.
Certainly lobbying and making the members of the Mendon Upton School Committee aware of where the town is at. Certainly would be part of that, but I can tell you that they're all very, very aware. And I know that our town administrator does a great job commuting with the Upton town manager, and they speak all the time, and they know exactly what the financial situation is in the two towns. So, there's open lines of communication, and they know, and I don't know, Heather, what else we can do. I'm open to any suggestions, but, I don't know. I don't know, what more we can do about strategy or besides telling them, look, we're giving you what we're giving you. This is all we can give you. We
and I think that was reiterated at the multi-board meeting.
Yeah, if you remember, it took me about 20 seconds to say, look, our situation hasn't changed. This is what we've got. We have no room for any more. And I think the chairman even thanked me for being brief and right to the point.
Right. I would just add what I have seen. I mean, I've only been here, however, 6 years. It seems as if in the past for overrides, both towns really do try on the town side of the budget to try to compromise with the schools to help get them to their goals, and make sort of concessions on the town sides of the budgets. And we've done that before. And I think there is an expectation that we would do that again. And I would say we certainly would consider and do it again if it was something we actually could do. Exactly. And so
it's not an option.
Right. And so I do think there will be, Upton, there will be some, narrative that is Upton is supporting it and Mendon isn't supporting it, sort of their, anti-school messaging. But, the reality is it doesn't even matter anymore what is said. We really can't afford to do it. And
I would say to you that if anybody who tries that tactic will lose on the facts. And they do that to their own peril.
May I say something?
Sure, Lonnie, absolutely.
Just don't lose sight of the fact, too, that Upton also has this abundance of override cash because they've kept their other overrides. When the overrides passed before and we didn't, they let them ride. And well, sorry for that term, but they kept the money. And so they have, I don't know that they've spent it in other areas, but essentially they have already approved these overrides from past that we didn't. So now they have this extra money to be able to just go ahead and, they always look like they're a little bit more flush than we are. But the fact is they've had some good override amounts that didn't go to the intended purpose and now have just been pumping into the town's general fund. So that's super helpful when you get overrides like that, So I feel that if we've not passed an override or the same thing happened vice versa, right? We might be able to look back in the Wayback Machine and find that we didn't keep overrides in those situations where Upton may not have passed and we did, because I feel like we've always been of the opinion that if it's not for its intended purpose, then we don't take it.
Right.
Well, that's the way you don't have your taxes run even further out of control, right? It's just being frugal.
Responsible.
Exactly. That's the word. So, unless anybody has anything else they want to add, what I'm going to ask is that we adjourn the meeting with intentions to reconvene next Wednesday at 6:30 to review the completed warrant articles.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I have a second?
Second.
All right. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Mike, aye.
Heather Alcock, aye.
Nick Siantra, aye.
All right. Well, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Have a good week. And I will talk to you all next week. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mike.
Night. Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.